Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show, and welcome to a Breaking Late News New York Comicon edition. Hi, everybody, and welcome. It is Saturday, October 12th. Yes, it is, as I check my watch. And today we're going to be talking about the news coming out of New York Comicon. And joining me is my good buddy. Go check him out on Oddfellows Thoughts, the Oddfellows Thoughts channel. It's Travis returning for a Breaking Late News episode. Travis, how the hell are you?
This is the closest I'm probably ever going to get to New York Comic-Con.
I know, right?
Oh.
We were just talking off recording about Emerald City Comic Con and the difficulties that can be for us. And we live, what?
6 hours?
6 hours away?
Yeah.
Can you imagine going to New York Comic Con? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those ones. It's kind of on the list of I want to go.
Yeah.
I want to go to say I went, but I've had plenty of people tell me it's one to maybe to avoid. So I don't know. I mean, creators. I've had creators say, "Oh yeah,
really?
Go to Baltimore instead, or go to
I've heard that too
instead."
Yes.
Don't. I mean, this is how crowded it is.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's like super crowded, and like if there's ever a fire or anything, we're all just going to die because there's no way to get out of the place quick enough, kind of a deal. Yeah, that was some of their,
yeah. I remember that.
Their thoughts on it. So,
well, yeah, I've heard the same thing. Baltimore. I would love to go to the Baltimore Con.
Yeah, same.
And again, Travis, I'm sure I've said this to you before. You and I have to go sometime to Heroes Con because that is such an awesome show.
I have never heard anybody say anything bad about that show.
Yeah. If I could, that would be like the new Emerald City Comic Con for me, is to go to Heroes Con every year.
No. That's a long drive, though.
Drive? What are you talking about, man? Jeez. I don't.
Yeah, but I could drive to Emerald City Comic Con. So.
Yeah. Well, we're not driving to any con in the near future, nor did we go to New York Comic Con. However, it being the second biggest con these days, I'd still consider San Diego kind of like the biggest comic, quote unquote Comic Con.
Right.
And New York, I think, is kind of reaching that level of, quote unquote Comic Con.
Well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, if nothing else, it's prestigious in being one of the first kind of big ones, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So, but there's a lot of news coming out of New York Comic Con. So we kind of, during the summer, we get some announcements and stuff from San Diego, and in the early fall, we get New York Comic Con, and then there's this kind of a drought, but after that, until late spring, early summer, when we get more stuff. So we'll see how that goes in terms of us talking about big and sustained announcements coming from various publishers. So I have a list here of things that as New York Comic Con was going on, which was last weekend at the time of this recording. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're early for how we
I know.
get on these things.
Yeah, it just worked out. I had some time, and Travis has very few hours today to do this, so we gotta get all this stuff wrapped up here. Anyway, so these are just the things that kind of caught my eye that I wanted to talk with Travis about and inform the listeners. So I'll just start off with the first thing that I saw. And then we'll just work our way down. There's something at the end I can't wait to talk to Travis about. But anyway, the first thing I saw, Travis, was the Neil Gaiman library coming from Dark Horse next year. And this is Dark Horse has been publishing a bunch of adaptations of Neil Gaiman's work with various artists like Raphael Albuquerque, Fabio Moon, and Gabriel Ba. Let's see here, P. Craig Russell, Shane Oakley, and more recently, I don't know if this one is part of it, but Snow Glass Apples with, oh my God, Colleen Duran.
Mm-hmm.
Which, did you get that book, Travis?
I did not.
Oh my God, it is gorgeous. I haven't actually sat down and read it, but I flipped through it when I got it, and it's probably the most amazing work that I've seen Colleen Duran do. which is saying something because she's phenomenal. So, boy, you can borrow it if you'd like after I read it. But anyway, so Dark Horse has been putting out these adaptations of Neil Gaiman's work. I've tried to get all of them. I think I may have missed one or two. But what they're going to do is take these various adaptations that they've released, singly, and they're going to put them together as a collection. So, basically, they call it the Neil Gaiman Library Volume 1. So, like I said here, it includes A Study in Emerald, How to Talk to Girls at Parties. I think The Study in Emerald is the one I missed. But How to Talk to Girls at Parties, I have that. See, it also include 2 stories. Mentioned previously, this says. But Murder Mysteries, this is the one by P. Craig Russell. Forbidden Brides and the Faceless Slaves in the Secret House of the Night of Dread Desire, which I think that's the other one I missed. That's a great title.
Yes.
I love that. So, I don't know. I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. I love the fact that that Dark Horse has been putting out these adaptations of his work with this eclectic collection of artists. So, and we have this. I just scrolled down in the article here that I'm looking at. I missed this before, but here's this wonderful cover for the collection by who's it say? I thought it said, and now I'm missing it. Does that look like? Is it? Oh, it's by Fabio Moon.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It does say right there. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, which I like Fabio Moon's work. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it says 4 complete books in 1 volume. Yeah. I like how they, that long title I just read, Travis, they shorten it on the cover to just say Forbidden Brides ...
Right.
That's funny.
So it's like $50 and it's oversized though, right? I mean, that's one of the things. Typically all of Dark Horse's library edition books are always larger than comic book size.
Well, I think generally I want to say that the adaptations also are not typical comic book size.
I can't remember. The last one I picked up was How to Talk to Girls. Largely for the artist.
Oh yeah.
I like Neil Gaiman. I don't know if all his work needs to be converted into comic books or not. I don't know. So,
well, and it looks like, according to this article, that Dark Horse plans to release 2 more these Neil Gaiman written graphic novels. So, if not more, it says. So, I'm sure we'll have another volume of this library volume. So that's kind of neat. If you're a fan of Neil Gaiman's work and all the artists involved. So, I just love how I don't know, is it Gaiman that does this? Probably not. It's probably the publisher to work with Gaiman and then pick the artist. It's like, which artist is going to do this, whatever this thing that they're going to adapt of Gaiman's. And I just, like I said, everybody that I, of the books that I've gotten, it's just, these are wonderful artists and they bring something different and special to the story that they're adapting. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the publisher. That would be my guess. That's who's largely doing that. And my guess is that these books are, I mean, the artists are doing all the heavy lifting, right? I'm assuming that Gaiman isn't sitting around and
helping to produce the comic. Yeah.
Right. Do you think he's rewriting a script to work for a comic book adaptation?
He might, actually.
I mean, I do know that the brothers that Fabio Moon, Gabriel Bra, they do adaptations. I mean, they do Brazilian adaptations of great Brazilian works quite a bit. So, I mean, that's something that they do themselves.
Yeah, it's up their wheelhouse.
Right. So I wonder, I'm guessing it's largely the artist. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess maybe he does. It just strikes me as the Gaiman doesn't have time for comic books.
But that's probably a good guess.
I mean, between his TV shows and writing books, I don't.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's not like the money's there, So I just have a feeling that, if it's a good book, it's a good book because those artists
Right. Yeah.
made the right choices of what needed to be there and what didn't. Because clearly you can't put everything that's in a novel in a comic book, I would guess. So.
Well, in even a short story, which I think most of these are short stories, so if not all of them. But I would love to talk to one of these artists and ask that question, and also just to find out, how much fun is this, or is this like a chore, or trying to adapt somebody else's work and be faithful to it and try to do a good job, and or is it just kind of like this, here's a chance to play. So I already have the framework through the story that Gaiman's written, and now I get to just play around with it and create this thing out of it. Maybe it's a mixture of both. I don't know, but I would love to be able to, pick their brains, these artists' brains, and kind of figure out how they go about doing this. And part of the reason I say that is because Bon Jovi, I remember hearing an interview with Bon Jovi when he did the Young Guns 2 soundtrack. And he said it was the easiest time producing an album because he already had the story to draw from to create the songs that he did for it. Sure. And so, and it was a little different from his usual stuff, right? And so for some reason, that interview, that approach to creating something out of something that already exists has always kind of stuck with me. And it has a direct line into comic book creation, right? Because the writer writes a script or writes an outline or whatever, and the artist takes that and they do their adaptation. I mean, comic books are all that. I mean, they're all adaptations to some degree. From going from the story to the art, to the colors, to the lettering. I mean, it's all these people involved with creating comic books that we love are adapting something.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm enamored with that concept, I guess. When does that come? Oh yeah, it says I want to just point out people. It's you mentioned it's like $50. And it'll be in comic shops near the end of May, and in bookstores in early June for people who want to pick that up. Okay, there was a lot of because there's a lot of it that we're gonna talk about next. A lot of DC news. Gee, I wonder why, Travis. I wonder why I picked up on a lot of DC news.
Why you pay a little more attention to that? Yeah,
I don't know. Well, it's not that I didn't look at the Marvel news. I just didn't think that there was a lot that intrigued me that there's like, hey, I got to talk about this thing, right?
Right.
But DC had a publishers panel. There's quite a bit of news coming out of that, and there's a few things I wanted to mention. The initial thing that I put on here, and Travis saw this, and he's like, well, where did the rest of this come from? But the initial thing that I had on here was that James Tynion IV will not continue on Justice League Dark when he takes over Batman starting in January.
Right.
And the reason I point this out is because Justice League Dark has been one of my favorite DC books in the last, couple of years that it's been being published. And quite honestly, I'll be very transparent here. James Tynion IV's work, his writing, has not always been my favorite. Every time I've tried to sample his work to see, what he's doing, do I like this guy? Is it, all this stuff. And until Justice League Dark, I've tried it for an arc and then I drop it.
Mm-hmm.
And, because they put him on Detective, at Rebirth, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And while I enjoyed kind of like the concept he was going for, the execution of it, because the art was good. It wasn't the artist. It was, there's something about the writing that I just wasn't connecting with, I guess. And so I dropped it. But then they announced Justice League Dark, and he's writing. I'm like, okay. But because of the supernatural characters, and you and I, we actually did a whole episode on our favorite supernatural character, magic characters, and years ago, and which we probably should revisit sometime, Travis. But because it's the DC mystical characters, I thought, well, this sounds intriguing. Now, again, kind of like the detective run. It's like, well, the concept sounds really cool, so I got it. And I have been loving it. It's like, who is this James Tynion IV person now? Because I love what he's doing. So it's kind of disappointing that he'll be off the book now in January.
Right. Well, so I'm curious to what's happens to the book.
Exactly. Well, it sounds like it's still going.
Because I generally like those characters. I mean, unless it was bad, I was going to be on board just because we talked about my love of the, the supernatural superheroes. I'd be on board unless it was, really stinky. For me, James is kind of hit and miss. Some of his stuff I enjoy and some of it I don't. I think some of my issues come from his favorite characters or some of my least favorite characters. So that always kind of there's always a conflict there for me. Just the fact that he celebrates people I would really wish were never on the page. But so like I said, I've been enjoying it too. So I'm really curious to see what comes of it. And I'm assuming that means that this whole run so far has been kind of one storyline running through it.
Yeah.
So does that mean by January he has it cleaned up, or is he leaving enough notes behind for whoever's taking over that they're going to have to follow? Because they haven't told us who's taking over that book, right?
Right. As far as I know, right. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen anything because I keep looking. Because once they announced that he was not going to be in the book and that he was going to Batman, I'm like, okay, so who is? What's the surprise? Who's taking over? Kind of a thing. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see. Because, like I said, I've been enjoying it. I've been kind of wanting this overlying story arc to get resolved, to maybe move on to something else. But I've been enjoying what's been going on. So I was just kind of curious. But they say it's going to keep going, huh? I was just suspicious that maybe this would be the end.
Well, I'm assuming based on what I read, because they didn't say it wasn't being canceled. It's just he will not continue on Justice League Dark when he takes over.
Right.
That implies to me that the series will continue. But you're right. Who knows? Maybe they're just not saying that right now. Maybe he will. I'm guessing that he'll wrap up that current storyline. And they'll start, if they do continue with the book, they'll start with a new creative team. God, probably with a new number one. I hope they don't, but and a new direction, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'll have to really pay attention to that when the time comes to see if I'll continue with it, or maybe it's just I had this nice run of Justice League Dark that Tynion IV did, that I actually really like. So. Yeah. And so what do you think, like you say, with you, or like with me, Tynion is, hit or miss with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what's your hot take on him taking over Batman after Tom King's run?
He's doomed. I mean, I say that, but I mean, maybe not, because I know there's lots of people who are just chomping at the bit for someone to be on the book besides King. So,
oh yeah.
And he certainly played in a ton of the Gotham playground. I mean, with the Eternal stuff and, the detective stuff and writing the backup stories for Snyder, all along and whatnot. So it's not like he doesn't have, I don't know. To me, it was kind of boring, to be honest. I've already read his Batman. We've read his Batman. We've read his Batman in a number of places. Maybe not directly Batman. Maybe he has. Because he claims that he wants to be telling a Bruce Wayne Batman story. I don't know what that entails. Cool. Okay. So I don't know if that is implying that it's going to be more Batman centric than like his detective run of it was, because clearly the detective run wasn't very Batman centric.
Right.
Cool. I'm going to read it. I'm going to give it a shot and whatnot. I'm a Batman fan. I collect Batman. So, but I don't know. I thought it was awfully safe. I would have been way more interested if they would have gone way out in left field again. But I think they're scared.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We've had conversations either on or off mic about certainly on Twitter about Tom King's run, why it suddenly went from 100 to 86 or whatever it is. I can't remember what number it ends at, and he's going to tell the rest of the story in a spin-off Bat and Cat book as opposed to being in the Batman book, which I think is a crime. And the more issues I read now, I'm a little bit behind. I think it's even more of a crime. Every issue I read, to me, it feels even more of a crime that they did not let him finish his run where it belongs. I think historically, if I'm around in 10 years and we're talking about comic books, that I think it'll be looked at as being a mistake to have done this, to move him off the way they did. So, I mean, so I get why they would go with James, because he's I think he's safe.
Yeah.
I think he's middle of the road. Not bad. I don't think his work is bad. I don't think it's inspiring though either. But maybe for a franchise book that's kind of the core of the DC publishing house, that's what they need it to be.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I'm gladder than glad. Like, it's not Scott Snyder back on the book. I know tons of people think that Snyder's run's like the best thing since sliced bread, but I don't. I got fatigued. I mean, I read it all, but I got fatigued probably before the Bat robot. So I don't know. I mean, but I'm that way with a lot of comics now, a lot of the corporate comics now. I'm at the point now where I'd rather it be somebody winging something out of left field than a marginalized.
Yeah, we don't. I shouldn't use this word, but it's the only one coming to mind. We don't want a boring Batman story.
Safe,
middle of the road. Yeah, like you were saying. Yeah, exactly. And we got, with Tom King, we've gotten some really interesting stuff.
Yes.
Whether you agree with it or not, it's been an interesting ride. And maybe it's because we are such long time readers, is it 40 years now? No, almost 40 years of reading comics. It's the new, it's the interesting, it's the challenging, it's the different that I personally, and it sounds like you're in agreement. Yeah. That's the stuff that we want to see more, instead of the corporate take on X character.
Well, and here's the thing. Maybe we're going to get that, but not here. Is that what the Black Label's about now? Because I also get from a corporate level, from a let's keep our franchise nice and safe. That's what you do, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that totally makes sense. I'm not suggesting that the corporations like DC, Marvel, and all the others, that right. they the bottom line is the bottom line, and they gotta do what is most appealing to the or I should say appealing to the most people as much as possible. So I get that, but yeah, as long as there is an avenue for challenging different new right. kinds of takes on things, I'm all for that.
Right. So back to the original question, I'm fine with this, but I'm not excited by this. Yeah, that's what it ultimately comes down to. Because but I get it. I mean, I get why they're doing it, especially after coming off of Tom King's, which has been challenging to people.
It's been what's the word I'm looking for? Divisive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I get it. I mean, I get it on all those levels and whatnot. And like I said, I'll check it out. I'm curious to see what that's gonna, what it's gonna be and whatnot. Like I said, I enjoy reading. I enjoy reading Batman. So but I'm also at a point where if it's going to be full of Tim Drake and whatever, I will drop the book in a second. So
is that the character you were referring to?
Yes, that is his favorite character. So I'm at the point. Hater. Yes, that's right. I am at the point where I don't need to collect something. I mean, I have at some point now dropped every book except for Batman. That if it's going through a phase that I am not enjoying.
So you don't.
I have passed the collector. I gotta have
the
it.
Completist.
Right. Or I look at it as, well, at some point I'm going to be someplace that's going to have bargain bins, and most modern comics at some point end up in those bins. Yeah. I come across that, and then I'll spend a good chunk of money to fill my quote unquote collection up with if I need to. Mm-hmm. But yeah, So
same. I'm totally there. Or I'll decide if I hear good things, I'll get the trade that they'll put out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah. Well, and so related to that, this is a quote from Dan DiDio, co-publisher of DC Comics. We're looking at the entire line right now, he said. So you're going to see some changes in who's doing which books, which, I mean, that's not news. They're doing that, but obviously they're gearing up to make some changes across the line, come the new year. And, obviously we just talked about one of those with Tynan moving on to Batman and whatnot. So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff at the end of the show.
Right.
Because some other interesting news came out of DC regarding that kind of stuff. But anyway, also part of this DC publisher panel, they were talking about the pop-up imprints. So we've had now Young Animal, Sandman Universe, so to speak,
mm-hmm.
and more recently, and Travis and I haven't actually talked about this, the Joe Hill Hill House. Is that what they're calling it? I forget now.
Yes, I believe that's what it's called.
Yeah. So again, now they're doing more, and I've always thought that's actually a really cool idea that they're doing that. Oh, and I'm sorry, and Bendis's Wonder Comics, I guess, is a pop up as well, but it's more in line with DC, the DCU.
Right.
So yeah, it says pop up. This is from Jim Lee, the co-publisher of DC Comics. Pop-up imprints are something we'll continue to do until the creators are done with it, which I thought that was an interesting phrase. When they're done with it, we're done with it. So I'm not, that's just a weird way to say that.
Right.
Right. So I maybe I'm reading too much into it, but.
Well, it's like they don't know.
Yeah, is this like I'm not sure how to take it. Is this like a harbinger of them stopping doing it, or is it a challenge to other creators to like, hey, if you want to do a pop-up imprint, come talk to me, kind of a thing? It's weirdly phrased to me.
Yeah.
But what do you think of these new? Like I said, the Joe Hill one is the newest one. Are you getting some of the Joe Hill books at all?
I'm getting them all.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I think I've ordered them all. I'm excited for them.
Okay.
I'm excited for them. And we've got some news coming up. One of the reasons I'm excited about it. I think Joe Hill tells interesting stories. And he's excited about comic books. He's, clearly a comic book guy, lock and key, right? So and he's got this imprint of his. Some of the other writers that are coming on board who are not necessarily comic book writers, but write really interesting stuff are going to be in it. So I'm excited about it. I've noticed that I buy a lot of horror comics anyway, without really realizing that I buy a lot of horror comics, because there's been quite a bit coming out lately. I mean, Image has a lot of horror comics. So yeah, I'm looking forward to all of them to check them out and see what they're gonna be like. Because a lot of them are like miniseries too. They're like, they're 6 issue, whatever. For me, that's a easy short term kind of investment. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what all's in them. I think it's interesting, the whole pop-up thing. I get it because they have names. They're named people. It's not like it's so I don't know if the idea is because they're named people, they're going to potentially draw in somebody who isn't normally a comic book reader. I don't know. I don't know if that's the idea behind these pop-up imprint kind of a thing. Because I'm assuming that maybe not direct market single issues, but I'm assuming that if you're in a bookstore or wherever and they can put those in a trade, Joe Hill, blah, 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 and people who read Joe Hill horror comics or whatever, or horror stories and whatever, can go, oh, I know him. He's Stephen King's kid. I've read Horns or whatever. I'll check this out and sell a comic on his name. I mean, because I'm assuming the imprints, it's got his name in it. It's being on him, and Gerard Ways less so. I kind of feel like that pop up is defunct, but I guess it's not. It's just the fact I'm not excited by the comics that are coming out by it right now. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, because part of the whole question around that came up as, okay, so you got rid of Vertigo, and clearly these Joe Hill books would fall into the Vertigo line. I mean, obviously. So is that, I mean, I know because that's how the conversation came up, I think, in the panel, was people were questioning why you've gotten rid of Vertigo. What's this about? Is it less of an investment for them? I don't get it completely.
What do you mean that they already had the Vertigo brand,
right?
And they got rid of that, and now they do this other thing.
So it is branded. I mean, this stuff's all. I mean, they want to imply it's still under it's under DC proper, but it's not, is it? I mean, it is, but it's not.
Well, they're certainly putting forward more the architect, the curator of the pop-up, right?
Right.
Which is, it seems kind of weird. We just had the conversation about the corporate aspects of comics. Right. So why would they not want to have their own their imprint being the name of this thing, as opposed to the individual curator of these pop-up imprints who are associated with DC, but they're putting, their name or their pop-up imprint name, up front.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, it's DC's Joe Hill Comics, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just kind of a weird dichotomy that I was just thinking about, but I don't know. I love this idea though. I mean, to dovetail back into what we were just talking about earlier about, the DC taking chances, Marvel could do the same.
Oh, sure.
Here's this perfect opportunity, for this different take on things or a different vision, and still be associated with that company. I think in terms of the characters, I think the Joe Hill thing is the first one where it's not associated, as far as I know, not associated with established DC characters.
Right. Not to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, it's all new.
Yeah. So even Gerard Way, the Sandman Universe stuff, Wonder Comics, those are all, while we do get new characters introduced, those are still involving characters or concepts that are pre-existing.
Yes. Yeah.
So while I am not, unlike you, my friend, I'm not all that enamored with horror comics, which is why I'm not getting any of these Joe Hill books. I might get some in trade down the road, especially if you tell me that this one's really good, I'll take a look at it. But
sure.
So for me, it's even though I'm not interested in what they're offering at the moment, I really like this idea of a brand new set of ideas, characters, concepts that are not tied directly to the DC universe. So that's really interesting. I'll be kind of watching this to see how well this does, because if it does well, obviously, and I imagine it will, they'll maybe bring other people like that with different visions and different takes, and maybe we could do a line of science fiction books instead of horror books, So,
right,
just a personal thing that I want, anyway.
Right. Well, and I think it's DC's, the pop-up imprint is DC's new way of having indie comics, indie comic vibe within their thing, because they were struggling to make that to continue to happen in Vertigo, because other places were doing the Vertigo comics probably better than they were at this point, largely.
So they create a specific niche with these curators, these particular curators, instead of having an imprint aesthetic,
right?
Perhaps,
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that they're taking this chance. They're trying this stuff out. So, like I said, it fits very nicely into what we were talking about in terms of what we would like to see more of.
Right.
But I would say what I would like to do is for them to do. You have Tynion on Batman, right? But then, like you said, with the DC Black Label, so then you get these other things like the what was the one with the Batman thing that got censored?
Batman the Damned.
The Damned, right? Yeah. where they take existing properties and do something, out of left field with them. And I didn't read The Damned, so I don't know if that's the case. I know about all the controversy. We've talked about it here on the show, but sure. Did that book, I mean, is it more than just a really well drawn and perhaps well told, I don't know, Batman story?
No, it's a Batman story.
Yeah. So I would like them to do, I don't know. Am I talking about Elseworlds? Am I talking just about, I don't know, real specific interpretations by X creator on this character that is just way different than anything else we've ever seen? I'm not sure, but that's what I would like to see in terms of the existing characters instead of like Wonder Comics. And I have not read any Wonder Comics, but based on the solicitations I've seen and people talking about them, it's just like, here's the characters and they're doing these adventures in the DC universe, but it's not, I don't know, anything really different. And I know that's a loaded word, but.
Right. Because, so the question then becomes, if you make a character so much different, then comes the argument, it's not that character anymore. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not entirely. This is just
sure.
These thoughts just kind of rumbling around in my brain, and I haven't really crystallized what it is that I think I want. But I like the idea of just the publishers trying something different with these established properties, especially since, like I said, we've been reading comics now almost 40 years. Mm-hmm. Show me something new.
Yeah, but we're not the comic book market anymore. Or if we continue to be the comic book market, the comic book market is going to crash.
I was just say we may not.
We're the superhero comic book market. I guess,
okay,
right?
We seem to be the demographic that they try to cater to. Maybe most often, I guess, which is not. That's not the way to sustain it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Well, speaking of sustaining, I threw this on because I love her work. Mm-hmm. And when she stopped drawing on Catwoman, I'm talking about Joelle Jones, I dropped the book. Even though she was still scripting the story, without, I wanted Joelle Jones. I wanted the whole package. I wanted the writing. I wanted the art. I just wanted 100%. Everything about it.
Yep.
And so when I saw this, that the fact that she is going to return to drawing Catwoman again, and is that a book that you've been getting consistently since it came out?
Yes. Yeah.
And has she? I mean, she did those first 4 or 5 issues, something like that.
Yeah, like the first arc.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did she return? I don't know what issue we're at now on Catwoman. Is this the first time she's come back to doing the art since she left?
No, there have been issues that she's done, and then right, but and then there'll be other right. She's not consistently done it, and there've been some storytelling where using a different artist is fine because it's telling a remember this story, so you can leverage that other artist in there a little better as far as making the art feel consistent. There have been some issues that she hasn't even written. I didn't realize that. Yeah. There have been a few like side stories that I can't remember his first name. His last name is V, the writer of These Savage Shores. He has filled in on a couple issues here and there. When I say filled in, literally he's telling a different story. I mean, the main story is going on doing whatever, and this happened to be another night out. She was doing something, and so he would tell that. So I'm assuming that was to help her get caught up or take a break or whatever she needed to do,
or maybe start working on the art for for what we're talking about here. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay,
right.
I'm okay with that.
So I have stuck with it because I like Catwoman. I like the stuff at the beginning. I like the spin out that started out of the because clearly it spun directly out of the Batman story. With issue 50 and the non-wedding and stuff. And I liked that. I liked that that they used some of that it wasn't just forgotten. She doesn't have her own comic, and like the whole thing with Batman didn't exist. I mean, that would have been weird.
Yeah.
Because I like that relationship, I like the dynamic, and I like what's going on in the current Batman book. And so I have been enjoying it for that, because it feels like, to some degree, the reasons where she's at and doing some of the stuff she's doing, it's kind of recovery, or her bad version of trying to go on with her life after that whole decision there. Some of the story elements have not followed through, and I'm assuming when she comes back to the book, they'll get followed through more, because she's picked up her sister. She has this sister who is largely in a vegetative state that she's taking care of, and they kind of dropped elements of that, and I think that got dropped when she left. I'm assuming that comes back. No, I've enjoyed it. I mean, I love it a lot more when she's doing the artwork. Because that's love her artwork. So yeah, that's why I jumped on the book in the first place, because of that. Because of that too. But like I said, I've enjoyed it all the way along. I mean, not as good as when you get to see her artwork, but still enjoy it.
Yeah. So I'll jump back on just to see her art. I guess I should have paid closer attention, because I didn't realize that she had done some maybe some individual issues along the way. I should have got those, but the one thing I wanted, besides the fact that she's returning, I thought this was interesting. There was some talk about how she goes about creating the book, being both writer and artist, which I kind of think is a weird labeling, I guess, because if you are someone who creates a story, a comic book story, and you're doing the quote unquote writing and drawing, it's all you're creating the story. You're a storyteller. I guess maybe that's the term I think they should use more. But anyway, it says she doesn't write full scripts, but rather sits down and shows where it takes her as a storyteller. They actually do say that when she draws, and that's very interesting to me. And I would love to see. Again, I'd love to pick her brain. What does that mean? Because as someone who has written short stories before, there was a point where I was doing a series of really short stories. It was kind of like I was trying to create and you remember this, is that Starblaze stuff that I did many years ago, where I was trying to create this ongoing story in these short chunks of 5 to 10 pages. And I was not, and I purposefully did not plan much out. It was simply, whatever the idea was for the story, I would flesh it out. And as I was going, I would just kind of see where I would lead myself next. So I wasn't like, okay, I'm in 2 stories from now, I'm going to do this, and 5 stories from now, I'm going to do that. I wasn't doing that on purpose, just to kind of see where the creative flow, that's a horrible phrase, would take me. And so to see that in terms of trying to create creating a comic book for this established character for this publisher, it's just like, I'm very fascinated by this idea of how she's going to do this. What does that mean? And I really want to dig into what does that mean for her and how she does it. Right. And like I said, because I love her art so much, and I'm so glad to see that she's doing well. I mean, she's done her own, create her own stuff. So she knows how to write or how to tell a really good comic book story. So I know she can do it. I'm really kind of curious how she does it. So I'm looking forward to this, I guess, is the gist of this.
Right.
So just real quick on this, Travis, since you've been reading it, how does Catwoman, the book, tie into like the more recent issues of Batman? Wait, which issue have you last read?
I haven't read the latest, I think. I
Okay.
might be. So I am at the point where I think they're leaving the beach.
Okay, so but they're together.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
how did,
they've decided that their relationship starts on the beach. That's the issue that I've read.
Yeah, that's what I read too. Okay. So is that the fact that they've reunited in the Batman book? Has that been addressed at all in Catwoman? Okay.
No, she's still on the lam. I'm moved out of Gotham and have to get away from there.
Okay,
not nearly much time has passed in the Catwoman book versus what's going on.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. That's fine. I don't think they have to tie in so closely. I was just curious.
Yeah.
So, but I do wonder now, with Joelle Jones coming back to draw, is that going to pick up then where Batman leaves off?
And when is she coming? Do we know when she's coming back? Did it say in that article? Because they need to wrap some stuff up. I mean, because you still got the half dead politician's wife, who's still kind of a nightmare around and whatnot. So I don't know. They'd have to address some of that stuff, I think, before they could go that. I mean, because she's still in remorse stage in the book. So I don't know how quickly they would wrap that up to get her back to where she's at now, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it does not say. According to the Meet the Publishers panel, it's just a quick blurb about the fact that she's coming back.
Part of me is surprised that the book is still going.
Why do you say that?
Well, just because. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends the motivation as to why people got on the book. Did you get on the book because it's a spinoff of what was going on in the Tom King thing? Are you just a Catwoman fan? I know it just seemed to me that that maybe there's less energy for the book. Two combinations of two things. If you're like me, of course I was going to get the book anyway, just because of the creators that were on the book. But I was interested to see if they were going to tell Catwoman's side of the story, because clearly her leaving the Batman book means we're missing that part of the story. And I was generally interested in that part of the story. What happens to these two people to get that close to getting married and then walking away from it? How does that impact them? And they were going to tell that story. So I was interested in that story for that reason, also. And so with her kind of not being on the book as much, clearly not being on the writing, you aren't the only person I know that quit reading the book as soon as she wasn't doing the art. Other people I talk comic books with also left the book as soon as she wasn't on the art. So that's kind of why I thought it would just lose enough momentum that it would be done because of that, kind of thing. And I don't pay attention to sales anymore, so I have no idea what, is it a book that's underselling and they're keeping it around for some larger plan, or if it's doing fine? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just assumed that it would reach a point that it would have. But I guess there's been long Catwoman runs in the past too, so I guess it's not.
Yeah. Well, what you said just a second ago about the fact that it, was a spin out of what was going on in Batman 50.
Right.
That's where I was thinking. I was like, well, what does it have the legs for a long run? And I still don't know the answer to that, but yeah, I did think about that. It's like, I wonder, but it's still going on. So I'm surprised and delighted that it's still going on. Well, so now we have we're moving to a character where she seems to have the legs for long running stuff, even if it's not in one book, it's in many. This is Harley Quinn. Yet another Harley Quinn book, Travis, that's coming out. This one is a Black Label series, it says. Given all of the Harley Quinn stuff that I've been seeing in previews over the last several months, I'm like, I would never have guessed that this character that first appeared in the Batman animated series, would be such, and of course, there's the there's the Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey movie coming out in February. So I assume that this book is going to be kind of, a tie into that, or at least trying to entice people because they saw the movie. Oh, here's a Harley Quinn book, even if it's not a direct relationship to the movie.
Well, what's also curious about that is there was a Birds of Prey book coming out. They've now delayed it to February when the movie comes out, and they've changed that one to a Black Label book also.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I last I heard it was delayed. But to like you said, it makes sense to maybe delay it for the movie. But now we have this Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey book. That's Black Label. What are they doing?
Right.
This is coming from Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti, who have had previous runs on the character. So
massively successful run on the character. I mean, yeah.
So the I guess the premise of the book is the Joker puts a $10 million bounty on Harley's head. So obviously things have definitely cooled off when as it pertains to their relationship, which is good. She recruits Black Canary, Cassandra Cain, Renee Montoya, and the Huntress to, help her out, I guess. I don't know. But interesting lineup there. I'm still just kind of flabbergasted that Harley Quinn is this. She's like, what, number 2 character at DC Comics after Batman?
Easily, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, she's hugely popular. And she's popular in the same way that that like Superman is popular to some degree. People who don't have nothing to do with comics whatsoever dig Superman, wear Superman shirts, or Captain America or whatever. It's that kind of that kind of fame that she has. It's beyond the core fandom, kind of thing. It's crazy. I just wish it was the traditional Harley and not the modern version of the Harley. I'm not a huge fan of the Harley and pigtails and hot pants. That's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But whatever. There's times I really like the character. I think the character can be super smart and you can tell some really interesting stories with it. Or she can be dumb as nails and I won't read it. Chances are I'm not reading this. As much as I love Black Canary, Cassandra Cain, Renee Montoya, and the Huntress, I love those ladies. For me, that like screams, this is a comic I should be like, knocking people over to get to.
And that's why I put on the list, because I know you love those characters.
And here's the thing. I love Amanda Connor. I love Jimmy Palmiotti. Those are great. They've all done stuff that I absolutely love. I did not like their Harley Quinn run.
Oh, really?
I could not get into that for nothing. And like I said, love those people. I think those people are all great. I love those characters. I even like Harley in the right circumstances. If they're telling the same kind of story that they told in the regular book, unless they change it up a lot, I'm not interested. So right at this moment, I'm not getting it. Even though it's got those people in it that I really like. Because I have a feeling it's going to be on the goofy side. Mm-hmm. I am tempted, though, because Amanda's actually doing the interior art on it.
Yeah. That was the one thing where I was like...
And she hasn't done interior art on a large project in quite some time. She's an amazing artist. She just really does a really great job. Facial expressions, all that kind of stuff will be super awesome in it. But man, I don't know. I'm torn because, like I said, I did not. And I jumped on and off the Harley book a number of times during their run, and just could not get into it. One too many beaver joke, and
well, it's particularly interesting too because, like you said, there's this other Birds of Prey book that was announced that apparently now is going to be a Black Label book. So
my understanding, they kicked it back to February, and it's going to be a Black Label book also.
Why do we have two Birds of Prey books on the shelves? I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just
right. It just and both of them under the same this extra special label that continues to make sense and then become murky as I don't understand why we have it.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So I could see there being two. One's a standard comic. We just go and we buy it off the shelf. It's got regular staples in it. You can roll it up and stick it in your back pocket if you choose to be that sort of a heathen. But I'm just saying, it's a regular comic book, and then we have the black label, square bound, a little bit bigger. It's edgier or whatever the black label is supposed to be version of it. But having them both seems weird. To me, this should have been the comic that was not black label because of the creators that are on it.
Yeah.
And they strike me as lighthearted, kind of fun type people. Not that the black label book can't be that. It just strikes me calling it black label that it's going to be edgy and not.
Right. I mean, well, because that's what we've been given before with black label is or supposely edgier kind of stuff.
Well, everything I've read of it so far has been, end of the world kind of
Although, to your point of the DC label being this murky, I don't know what kind of thing it is, they released a collection of All-Star Superman under the DC black label. So, what?
Wrong. Yeah. So that's really strange. That whole part of that is strange. Gives you an idea. It makes you think, these publishers don't know what they're doing.
Or they're just, they're just trying to, I don't know.
It's the Dan Didio, throw it and see what sticks.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Which sometimes I really appreciate. And lots of times it just makes me grit my teeth.
I'm not saying that this is cringeworthy. I just, it just seems weird.
No, I think it's a great combination. It makes sense because it is a reflection to some degree of the movie, at least from what I can see of the trailers. It makes a certain amount of sense. Great people on the book.
Is it just an excuse to because this is a 32-page, at least the first issue they said will be a 32-page comic for $5.99.
Okay, I'll probably get the first issue.
All right, Mr. Integrity.
Well, it's just hard when I order comics in advance. I mean, that first issue I want. I just don't know, do I want the stuff after that?
Yeah, of course.
I want to see it. Don't get me wrong.
Well, especially because the way we get our comics, it'll be a $3 comic.
Right. But I'll also have bought 3 of them before I see the first one, probably.
That's true. Yep.
That's the downside.
Well, I don't know. Maybe with the black label, they're not necessarily monthly, right? So far,
that's true. Well, that's true. I think the latest Snyder Capullo one has been, hasn't it? But definitely the Damned wasn't. It wasn't. It was every couple months, every other month, I think is what it was. And then the last one was really delayed. So, yeah. Okay.
Moving along to more female DC characters. This will be the third one in a row. I forget, Travis, did you read Amethyst?
Yes.
Back in the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also read the Sword and Sorcery when the when Rebirth hit, and I really enjoyed that. I was having a fun time with that. So
yeah.
I like the character, I like the concept, I like the idea, pretty much the whole Amethyst thing. I mean, I hope they don't. Well, go ahead. I'll let you.
Well, so Amethyst is coming back as a standalone comic. Amethyst currently has been appearing in Young Justice from Brian Michael Bendis' Wonder Comics, and so she's jumping into her own series, I believe, under the Wonder Comics banner. So this is coming next year as well. But more importantly to me is Amy Reeder is going to be working on the book. Mm-hmm. And I'm a fan of Amy Reeder's work, so that's kind of cool. Not kind of cool. That is cool. And the preview art that I'm looking at now, it's just looks gorgeous.
Right. It's gonna be. I'm assuming it's gonna be a super fun book. I don't know. My only caveat for me personally reading it is going to be, how goofy is it? I mean, I don't want it edgy, dark, or whatever, but I don't want it to be the Care Bears either. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think we're going to get Care Bears level of
I'm just
comic book goofery.
I'm just saying that's my thing, because I like I said, I enjoy the character. I have not read any of the whole Young Justice or what she's like in that. I have no clue, so I have no idea if this take is directly that or not. I have no idea.
Well, it says here when the New 52 relaunch happened, she was recast as being raised on Earth, and the speculation is that given the origin that we saw in Young Justice, which I have not read,
I don't know
Young Justice yet. That's probably going to change, probably to go back to the original concept of the character. Well, no, she was raised on Earth in the original one.
Yeah, right. She was.
Until she was, how old? 13, right?
Right.
And
right,
then
because the issue is because then she zaps to this other world where she's
an adult, a young
she's
adult
an adult
woman. Yeah.
She's an adult dealing with very adult things, and oh my God, she's 13. I mean, if you go back and look at it now, there's some stuff in there that in this age we would go, that might not be appropriate kind of stuff. So, but interesting all the same.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually recently listened to a podcast, and I'm blanking on the name of it. Anyway, I mentioned on Twitter, so maybe people can find it there. But it was with the writer of the book, one of the writers of the book,
right?
And he was talking about how Amethyst seems to be thought of as this all ages comic book, when really there was some pretty dark stuff in there.
Right. Well, because on quick face value, she's wearing all purple. It's got gems. She's this cute blonde. It reads as happy fun time, not evil opal and diamonds and all the adult sinister stuff that gets thrown in there and whatnot.
Yeah. Like I said, I did not read Amethyst back in the day, but because of the wonderful opportunity that the DC Universe subscription provides me, sure. I read the first issue. And I'm going to get back to it, but I plan on reading at least that first miniseries, that 12-issue launch of it, and then they did a later series as well. But I'm gonna read that. That was a gap in my comic book reading that I want to fill.
I'm hoping that this is a middle-age book. That this is a book that's going to appeal to that 10 to 13-year-old.
Oh.
Is what I'm
When
I'm hoping.
When you said middle age, I went to
middle age. No. As far as that kind of, because you kind of look at this gap. I mean, they clearly are working really hard on young kids, DC superhero girls kind of thing, and then there's this massive gap to relatively adult content stuff. I'm hoping this kind of lands in that kind of sweet spot in between. Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be more monthly comics that fall into that.
Yes.
I know that the industry, at least DC, is working really hard to fill that gap in a different way with all the original graphic novels that they have coming out that are using the DC characters, aging them at a different age that falls into that. And that's cool because I know there's the whole manga buying populace that wants, like even my kids, they want it all at once. They don't want to read the monthly. I want to keep the monthly tradition alive. So let's get some more of this kind of age comic at a monthly series. So somebody teaches their kids to read monthly. But
wasn't that kind of the point of the Wonder Comics line?
It is, but some of the Wonder Comics I would not. I don't know. I read Wonder Twins. It's fun. It has some fun stuff in it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's been too long since I've been a 10 to 13-year-old. I don't know that would have. I don't know that would have appealed to me. It originally had some hijinks in it that felt like, oh yeah, this was high school or junior high, and so I can relate with that at that age, kind of thing. And then it's drifted into other, social commentary-ish kind of things that. Oh, maybe kids are smarter today than they are when I was that age. Or it's just they're smart enough to write it to where it appeals to me, as a old guy, while I could still potentially appeal to a younger group of readers, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's the same kind of appeal, like say with some of the Disney animated films of yesteryear, where
sure
the adults who took their kids to see them get stuff out of it just as much as the kids
Right.
do, right?
Right.
Or not,
Right.
maybe not just as much, but in the same sense.
Sure.
And again, I've not read any of the Wonder Comics stuff. I decided to get those in trades. So, but I'm really curious now that you and I are talking about this, I want to give this to Madison, who is 13,
Right.
and see what she thinks about this. Does this fit with her age group? What's her sensibilities about it? So, yeah, now I'm really curious.
Mm.
And of course, with this amethyst thing, I wonder if that'd be something that she'd be interested in. I'll have to point that out to her next time we're talking about comics and see if she's at all interested in that. So,
Cool.
All right. Finally, we get to something from Marvel. We kid because we love, but and this is purely because I've loved the Jason Aaron written Thor run for years now, and he's leaving the book. He's moving on to other things, and so I was curious, because I knew this was coming. King Thor is the 4-issue miniseries where the Jason Aaron's run is ending. So I knew, they're gonna do a Thor comic after that. It's not like they're gonna shelf Thor for a while,
Right. Right.
So I was curious who is going to take over for Jason Aaron and all those wonderful artists he's been working with. And we finally got that information. So I forget. Were you reading Thor? Have you been
No.
reading Thor? Okay, dude. Okay.
God Bomb, I think is where I stepped off at.
Oh,
My mistake.
holy
My
crap,
mistake.
man!
Right. So I don't have any of the non-Odin Son stuff.
Oh,
I plan on picking it up in some deluxe format because clearly I don't know a single person who hasn't absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And, it's the Thor run of the ages.
Dude. We should talk about Thor sometime. Okay. Anyway, so there's that. I want to see who's doing Thor. Thor was never a character where I was like, Thor's awesome.
Right.
Until I started reading, the series of books written by Jason Aaron. Now I love Thor. I mostly enjoy the Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh boy, I'm blanking on his name. Hemsworth.
Yep.
Yeah. I've enjoyed his take on the character. What I don't have a lot of knowledge about or experience with is the writer coming onto the book, Donny Cates.
Well, clearly that right there goes to show you're not a Marvel reader because he writes half the books.
I know,
for Marvel,
right?
I swear to God.
I am. This is a huge blind spot on my part because
That's hilarious.
Donny Cates seems to be taking over the Marvel universe.
100%. He's the new Charles Soule, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, as far
that's
as writing 20 books, yeah. And he still writes indie books. Yeah. He's everywhere.
So, tell me, because I know he's huge with Venom. I know that.
Right. And the Carnage stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, is he good? Do you like his work?
So I read Baby Teeth for a while, which is one of his independent books that he was on, that I think he wrote prior to had started prior to the Marvel contract. I like some of his stuff. I don't know. I haven't read a lot of it because he's writing characters. I'm
Exactly.
sorry. I'm not going to touch the 10-foot pole kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm about Thor, but like Venom is like, no. So,
Wait. What's worse, Venom or Deadpool?
Oh God, that's hard. That's hard. Venom. I think Venom is.
What? Wow, I'm kind of surprised you'd said that. Okay.
Take Spider-Man's black suit and then turn it into. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, but everybody else that I know that reads a healthy shot of Marvel Comics absolutely loves the stuff he is doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm very curious now. I basically have decided, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I basically decided that, especially for the big two, for things that I'm interested in that are monthly books, I'm going to wait for trades unless there's some really big reason that's drawing me to it. With the new Thor, I was going to do the same thing, but given that it's Donny Cates and the hubbub around him and it's new Thor, different take. Nick Klein is the artist coming onto this. It says here, Nick Klein, parentheses, Deadpool. I have no idea because I don't read any Deadpool.
Right, same here.
I'm not. Nick Klein is not a name, an artist that I am familiar with. But they do have a returning champion in the colorist, Matthew Wilson. So at least there's some continuity there. Unless Matthew Wilson is going to just do colors way differently for this series than he has been. And I will say, Matt Wilson on colors on Thor, Travis, is one of the big reasons I love that book. Not just this, Aaron's storytelling and that long run story he's created, but Matt Wilson doing the colors. It's just most amazing work that I think he's done in anything has been on Thor. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do with what he's going to do with the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really curious because I hope I'm not spoiling anything for anybody, especially you, Travis. But Thor is now he's taken over Asgard. He is King Thor. He's not. Odin has stepped down from his regal duties in the story, and so Thor is he's ascended. So I'm really curious. I was really curious if they were going to somehow go back to how things were.
The solicitation is the black storm is coming, and the storm god will be powerless in front of it. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I really what I was talking about was, are they going to return to the status quo of Odin being in charge of Asgard and being a total dick to everybody? Which is, while I enjoy that take, it's like the Aaron run has developed Thor over time to be where he is now.
He's matured.
He has matured. Yes, exactly.
Right.
So I like that progression, and I know they've actually done this before, where he ascended into to the throne to be ruler of Asgard, and then they took it away. They took it back. So I know it's superhero comics. They always return to the more established norms. I understand that, but I was hoping that they would not do it immediately on the new relaunch of the book. And I don't know that they've specified anything here about that in the article I'm looking at. And I don't think so, but anyway, I'm looking forward to what this all means, just because Thor is like one of my new favorite characters in the last few years. So,
cool.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a Comicon related news episode, Travis, if we didn't talk about some awards that were given out, and this episode is no different. Right. Because they released the winners of the Harvey Awards, and just to remind everybody, especially ourselves, because we sometimes forget which award is this or which award is that. So the Harveys are the only industry awards selected by a full body of comic and publishing professionals. And so not only did they announce the award winners, but they also have the Harvey Hall of Fame, and those people inducted into the Hall of Fame, one of which was Mike Mignola, Hellboy creator Mike Mignola. So I thought that was pretty cool, and you're a big Hellboy fan, so I thought you might appreciate that.
Yep.
Also, Alison Bechdel, who is the creator of Fun Home, Dykes to Watch Out For. Fun Home is something I've heard over the years that I need to read, and I haven't yet, so I need to get that book and read it eventually. And also 5 former Mad Magazine contributors? Ugh. My words are not coming out correctly today. Will Elder, Jack Davis, John Severin, Marie Severin, and Ben Oda. A few names I do recognize, a couple of which I don't. So there you go. Travis, what I found interesting here about the Harvey Awards, at least in the article that I saw, well, no, not just the article. I actually went to the Harvey Awards website and looked this up. They only have a few categories.
Right.
Unlike all of the other awards that we've talked about in the past, or like
right, which act more like it's the movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's literally they have their own version of best lighting and best whatever kind of a deal, which is cool. I mean that's fine. But yeah, so this is the Harveys are definitely a different kind of a take and is it? I don't even know if it's the same awards every year. Is it?
Well, and see, that's a good question because I should have looked this up, obviously, but I didn't. I don't remember the Harvey Awards being so few last time we talked about this.
I don't remember that either. And I thought the category that stands out to me that I don't remember, and I really should have went back and looked at this beforehand, Best Comics Adaptation Award. Yeah. To me, that was a weird one because I'm like,
I was going to mention that too.
I mean, because it's comics, but it's awarding somebody outside of comics, right? I mean, because that's not really.
So well, let's just talk about that since we're here. We'll get to the other ones in a minute. But Best Comics Adaptation the winner was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Well, I don't disagree with that choice whatsoever because I freaking love that movie. It seems really weird that they're awarding something that is not comics, even if it was adapted from comics.
Well, I'm confused by some of the nominees even. Where is Snagglepuss Chronicles? Where is it at? I mean, are they considering that to be an adaptation of the original Snagglepuss cartoon?
No.
Seriously?
It was done by the Provincetown, Tennessee Williams Theater Festival and Diecast.
Really?
And it's based on the Exit Stage Left.
Exit Stage Left?
Yeah.
Huh. I'll have to go find that.
A theater. Okay, that's really cool. I mean, we're kind of complaining about this, but that's the fact that it's not based on a television or film property. It's right. A theater production.
Which
that
makes
is
sense.
really
the
cool.
whole Tennessee Williams aspect of it anyway. So I don't know if you've read that or not, but
I haven't actually.
Oh, yeah, it's good. And that makes sense. I was just curious. So to me, that was a weird category. Not to not talk about the other stuff, but that just seems strange to me with the Harveys. And then because this is a award being given to something that's not in comics. It's comic related. I get it, but it's not. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
It won an Oscar, didn't it? So why does it need a Harvey Award? I mean, not that it's not a good show. In Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I've seen it multiple times now. So, yeah. Best
superhero movie of last year. This year. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's jump back to the other ones.
Sorry.
No, that's good. So book of the year, I guess, is the big award, I guess. I don't know.
Sure, I would think so.
The winner was Hey Kiddo by Jarrett J. Krasoska from Scholastic Graphics.
Right.
And so I was looking at the other ones. I'm not familiar with that book at all. But there are a couple books on here that I am, including My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies by Brubaker and Phillips from Image. I've heard of Berlin by Jason Lutz from Drawn and Quarterly. Mm-hmm. And I think I may have heard of the Laura Dean. Is it Laura Dean or Laura? Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell from First Second. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think I mentioned that in or George did in one of our previews episodes. But the other ones I don't think I have. Oh no! On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. From First Second. I've seen that in previews. Tilly Walden's another one, like Alison Bechtel, where it's like this is work that I need to read. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Right.
So anyway, what do you think about any of these nominees or the winner? Are you familiar with the winner? Hey Kiddo.
No, I'm not. I like you, I'm familiar with a couple of those titles in there or a couple of those creators that are in that mix. This is clearly a chunk of comics that I don't read, partially because these are full books and I live in a world of serialized comics largely. So I don't partake in a lot of this stuff until well after the fact, until I've heard somebody else talking about it or whatever. And I'm like, I need to get on that, or I need to check that out, or, that sort of thing. A lot of this stuff passes me by. An interesting mix just by looking at the stuff I do know in there. The fact that, that My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies is in with the same, in the same category with Hey Kiddo, which I am betting is not anything close to the same sort of type of a book that My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies is. So that's cool. I mean, that's cool that you've got a Scholastic book, competing with a edgy Image book.
Yeah,
that's interesting. To me, that's a pretty dynamic category. So two things, Travis. One, I'll just mention this first, since it's first. Did you notice First Second had 3 nominees on here? Right.
So obviously, First Second is a publisher to pay more attention to. And two, I don't this. I'm going to challenge us, you and me and the listeners here. We should, because a lot of people do like when the Oscars get announced and who the nominees are, and then I know a lot of people do this. They go and if they haven't seen the movie yet, they'll go and watch it before the Oscars are announced. Or maybe they'll do it afterwards to see, okay, which movie deserved the Oscar kind of thing, I guess. I don't know. This list is short enough that you could easily get all these books, whether, even if you don't buy them. I'm sure a lot of these are in the library, your local library, or available through like the Hoopla?
Hoopla, yeah.
Yeah, which my library system doesn't have. So anyway.
Mine doesn't either. Ugh. And mine doesn't carry comics either.
Oh, well.
Because they steal them. Every time they get comics in, they get stolen. Seriously.
Wait, I was considering donating a bunch of my trades and graphic novels that I no longer want to my local library. You're saying I shouldn't do that because I'll just get stolen?
Just don't do it in the Valley. I'm just telling you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the problem. It's the Valley.
I have a working relationship with a librarian of my town, and they quit getting them in because every time they would get in, like Sandman or whatever, somebody would walk off.
Awful. Okay.
Yeah.
Low level some bad circle of hell for people that steal books from the library. Come on.
No doubt.
That's worse to me than people who talk in the theater. Anyway,
that's bad.
Anyway, so we should read all these, Travis. We should read these, and maybe these are the books that will save the comic book industry, or this type, not these specifically, but these are the kind of things that maybe draw in the other readers that we were just talking about, like your middle school age people. Like I said, a lot of these I want to read. I've been thinking about. I need to buy these for some reason. So we should do that. What do you say, Travis? Can you commit to that right here, right now?
10 books. We're gonna read 10 books.
Well, not all at once. We don't have to get them all at once, but before the next Harveys. How about that? Within this year span.
Sure.
I'm putting him on the spot.
Sure.
Now I have to conveniently lose this list. Okay, moving on. Digital Book of the Year, which I thought that was interesting that they have this. We don't, and I know you don't pay attention to digital comics, Travis, but generally speaking,
what are those?
But yeah, this is a thing. This is the future, my friend. You gotta embrace it. But the winner here is Check Please by Ngozi Yukazu from checkpleasecomic.com. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 other nominees in this category. I have not heard of any of these at all.
Nope.
But they're all available on the web. So go check out that list. I'm going to go check these out now.
Check Please is hockey related. Just for the people who aren't seeing what it is. As opposed to when I hear check please, that's I'm leaving the diner and
yeah,
I need
it's
check please.
Yeah,
right.
Some sort of
right.
diner related thing. You're right. Next category: best children's or young adult book. Here you go.
And what? 3 of the 4 things in this category were in best book of the year also.
Yes, you are
because Hey
right.
Kiddo's there. I take it back. Yeah, 3. Hey Kiddo.
Yep. Hey Kiddo.
Yeah, Hey Kiddo.
On a Sunbeam.
And of course the winner. Laura Dean keeps breaking up with me.
Yes. So yeah, interesting. All right. So I don't know. Maybe we should read everything on this list, Travis. Look, Travis just gave me.
I'm glad you have a lot of time on your hands.
Well, no, but I'm clued into, no, not clued. I'm tuned into what we were talking about earlier about, different takes and different visions and that kind of stuff. And so
100%.
This seems to me to be perhaps fitting that bill. So I'm really curious. Best manga, which I've never read any manga. So this is for the most part, Travis, I've not read anything on this Harvey Awards list.
You're clearly not a Harvey.
I am. Well,
either Harvey Awards are really hipster, or
I don't think so.
Or you're really stuck in corporate comics. I don't know. Right?
Yeah, I think that is the problem. I am too stuck in DC Marvel land. Image. I don't really count Image. I mean, yeah, it's independent, but I don't know. Anyway, I won't get into that. But obviously, there is a huge section of comic books that I am delinquent in not having read. I am falling down in my responsibilities here, Travis, to promote and enjoy the medium. So anyway, best manga. Never read any of these. I've heard of this, My Hero Academia, by I'm gonna not pronounce that name correct. Kohei Horikoshi from Viz Media. Yeah, I have no idea. These other ones I have no idea. I've never heard of. But Viz Media has 3 of these, including the winner. Dark Horse Manga, which I guess I didn't realize Dark Horse published manga?
Yep.
Okay. Obviously, I'm not paying attention. Yeah, so that's interesting. We already talked about the Best Comics Adaptation Award. So the final category we're going to talk about here is Best European Book. And Travis, I have read the winner. Ha ha! I feel very good about myself for that.
I haven't, so.
Oh, it's such a good book.
That's what I hear.
It's an amazing book. I intend to talk about it on my podcast here at some point. But that's Waves by Ingrid Chabert and Carol Morel from Archaea. God, I love that book. And then there's 4 others that I think the only one I've ever heard of is Oh Josephine says just Jason from Fantagraphics.
Graphics, yeah.
But Fantagraphics has 2 on here. Viz Media and IDW has one. Corto Maltese. I may have heard of that one by Hugo Pratt. So, yeah, if you want to read Waves, Travis, let me know. I'll let you borrow that book because it's a quick read, but oh my God, emotionally powerful.
I want to check out more European comics because I know they're not quite exactly what American comics are, but they're not manga either. So I know there's some really interesting people that I've ended up liking, like artists and whatnot, are coming out of like Spain and some places like that. So clearly there's a different art world out there that I want to check out. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and the Waves one, Ingrid Chabert is the I think she wrote the story and Carol Morel did the art, or Carol did the English adaptation. I can't remember now. And the book is too far away for me to grab to check, but yeah, it was either originally done as a French book and then English, or they did it together. I don't know. I don't remember now, but great book. So
Mm.
All right. Better than My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies. I'll just put that out there. And I love Brubaker Phillips, so that's saying a lot for me. Okay, here's a blast from the past, Travis. I put this on here just because I think you read this too.
Yes.
Peter Milligan and Duncan Fagretto and Sherilyn Van Valkenburg's. This is it's the series Enigma from Vertigo, classic Vertigo.
Yes, must read. If you're into Vertigo books, it's a must read. If you have not read it,
yeah. So I was trying to remember this, Travis. When Vertigo was getting started, there was a few books that were already in the work, or not in the works, being published before Vertigo got going. Sandman, Hellblazer, maybe some others that I'm forgetting. My recollection is that the Enigma was one of the first ones to come out after Vertigo became a thing that I got. And it left quite an impression on me, to the point where I still have it in my collection. It's something that I intend to go back and reread. I was just kind of, it was akin to when I went to grad school and I was first exposed to postmodern fiction. And I'm like, what the hell have I been missing all my life?
Right.
And I kind of got I had the same reaction when I was reading Enigma. It's like, this is what comics can be?
Right.
And so I was very excited to see this. So Dark Horse is doing a new collection of that 8-issue miniseries in a deluxe hardcover. So I don't need to get the hardcover of this because I have the issues, but it was just like kind of a little bright spot in the New York Comicon news there for something that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Right. No, I mean, it's been long enough. I'm sure there's a sea of comic readers who are into Image and Vault and whatever that don't know about this book, and it holds up. It holds up. It's one of those kind of things where lots of times for me, there's stuff either I experience or read and I'm like, wow, at the time it was this, edgy, clearly turns, my thinking of things on, off its axis and all this great stuff. And then I go back and I watch it or I read it now and it's like, oh, now it's just it's normal. It's the normal, it's how lots of stuff operates now.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I can appreciate it for being the thing that did it maybe first or my first experience with it. But to introduce it to somebody new, to introduce it to a young person, it's like, yeah, this is what's so special about this. It's I mean, like what Watchmen was back then, I just don't think it has the same value now that it had back then. I mean, it still has value, but not the same. So there's that whole kind of thing. And this holds up. It's like going back and watching Twin Peaks. When I watched Twin Peaks back in the day, it was nuts. And I'm watching it with my family now. It's still nuts. There's parts of it that are like, oh, clearly it's dated, but at the same time, it's still bonkers enough that modern work has not caught up to it or embraced it in the same way. And I think this is kind of the same sort of a thing. So I think it's smart, that they're doing it. I think it's interesting that Karen and Milligan obviously must have the rights to it to choose to put it out under Dark Horse.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, because I know certain creators who had books at Vertigo, they took them elsewhere.
Right.
Oh man, I'm totally blanking on. There was I don't remember. There was a series. Oh, The Mighty. That's what I was trying to think of. The Mighty had been recently collected, I think, or is going to be collected at a different publisher, and that came out from DC. I don't think it was even under Vertigo. I think it was just a DC title that they were doing. But the creators had that rights. So and
I wonder with Vertigo shuttering if that's going to speed up some of this stuff, because I'm assuming that because Vertigo is shuttered, they're not going to maybe keep reprinting some stuff.
Ooh, Ooh, yeah, good point.
Which is great for those creators, I guess, for them to get the rights back to whatever.
Well, and this article does note that a collection of this series was last released in 2015, but it has been out of print since then.
Right.
And also, we're talking about Vertigo. It's interesting, perhaps, that this is being done through the Berger Books line. Karen
Right.
Berger, who
The original
basically
editor
created
of
Vertigo.
Right.
And so, and this was this series was launched under her auspices in 1993. So it's been a long time since this book first appeared, and I don't know what the publishing history, the collected publishing history of this book has been, other than the fact that it was last released in 2015. So I don't know if Vertigo had released a collection of this in the intervening years between 93 and 2015.
Yeah, I don't know.
But what it does, as Travis was talking earlier, I was looking at my phone, so I apologize, Travis. You thought I wasn't paying attention. I was, but what I was trying to look for was there's another book that I'm wondering if somebody would ever publish in this way. So I'm wondering if they're doing this with Enigma, will they do The Extremist? Do you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
That's another one that blew my mind.
Yeah.
So that'd be, I just like this idea of these old properties like that probably haven't gotten a lot of attention, since they were first launched, to be reintroduced into the comic book universe and be reintroduced to a new generation. It's kind of like people who are, I put this in quotes, discovering these TV series that we watched back in the day.
Right.
Suddenly they're like Deep Space Nine, for Star Trek Deep Space Nine, for example. It's like that has found a new audience now for something that, again, well, if we're talking about 1993 for Enigma, that's when Deep Space Nine premiered too. Mm-hmm. That's interesting happenstance, but so I really dig this idea that I want to see more of these older, I'll say creator-owned, for lack of a better phrase, but creator-owned comics be reintroduced in this way. So this is a really cool thing,
for sure.
And I'm very pleased to hear you say that it holds up. Every time I do my comic book shuffling, when I have a long box of recently read comics that I've gotten over the last, I don't know, several months that I have to integrate into my long boxes. Eventually I see The Extremist, and the Enigma, and I'm thinking I should read those again. They had such an impression on me back in the 90s. So I should probably pull those out and read them again sometime.
Well, I just read Enigma not very long ago because our friend Sarah, when she was unloading, Vertigo books and whatnot, I got second copies of that series, and when it came in, I went, "Oh, this is short. I'll just read this," and it's still cool. Yeah.
Great, very cool. I'm gonna skip that one. The next one, Travis. I'll just say IDW is coming out with a book called Bermuda that unites dinosaurs and pirates, and my note says it sounds charming. So I just
no interest whatsoever. So
really, no. Dinosaurs, Travis.
Sorry.
All right. And in the news, no news is news category, Cliff Chiang is going to write, draw, color, and letter. He's going to do it all. A Black Label book for DC Comics. And that's all we know right now.
Right. We don't know what character it is. We don't know anything.
Anything. Name, nothing. Right. Nothing.
Are you getting it?
No. I'm not going to commit to say that I'm going to get a Cliff Chiang book without knowing what it is.
I am. It's Cliff Chiang. I'll get it.
Okay. That's why I put it on here. I was curious if you.
I dig his art. I dig his art enough.
Yeah.
I don't know about him writing. I mean, he's been an editor, so he has to have some idea. He's clearly worked with lots of great writers. I have the impression that if you're a comic book artist, who does good work, and you've worked with enough of the really good writers, that some of that has to rub off, right? You have to have some. I think.
Well,
okay.
I see your point, but I've come around to the idea, and I think this is something that we need to, people like us, and just generally speaking, we need to break that idea of writers develop the story and artists transcribe it almost, right? Because the artists are creating that story along with the writer.
Except I don't know that's the case. See, that the thing is we don't understand what the relationship between the creators are. Depending on what their relationship is and what their work is depends on what that looks like. So,
sure.
So for some people, some artists, they want as big of a blank slate as they possibly can to the writer gives them the basics and then they dictate the shot. Then there are others that the writer is literally dictating the entire thing and the artist is following what the writer is. So we say that, but at the same time, unless you've had a conversation with the creators that are involved in any said book, we have to take a wild wag at who's doing what anyway.
Sure. Okay. Yes. But, and this is totally anecdotal because this is just because I follow certain people on Twitter and I read their conversations back and forth. I read their responses to this very point. And what I have, I guess, gathered is that it's very much a collaborative process. It's not a directorial, you do this shot, you present this idea this way. It's more of a back and forth. And the artist is really doing I want to say lion's share of the work. I don't know that, but
sure.
I mean, they are in terms of the actual thing that is produced because, how long does it take to write a script as compared to drawing a 20 or 32 page comic or more, right?
Sure.
But based on what I have been reading, and other interviews that I've read, longer form interviews, is that I firmly believe now for the majority of the comic book creator relationships, it's very much a give and take, and the artist is doing a huge amount of the storytelling in the comic, and it's not just a dictatorial type thing. So that's my take on it.
Right. Depending on the relationship and what you're doing. If you're a writer for working a freelance gig, lots of times you don't even know who the hell is drawing your damn comic.
Sure.
So I'm assuming then you're calling, as the writer, you're calling more of the shots. I mean, I've read, Alan Moore scripts. The guy goes into nutsy detail on what he wants in places and whatnot.
Sure.
I've also read like Warren Ellis talking about the fact that when I'm working with J.H. Williams III, I give him the basics and get the hell out of the genius way.
Right.
If I'm working with X artist, I'm giving them references and saying, I want a medium shot. I want,
I'm sure,
a bird's eye view.
It depends on the artist. Yes.
Right. But I will agree. The misconception that the writer is doing everything and the drawer is just drawing the pictures that the writer has told them to draw is a misconception.
Yeah,
for sure.
that is an erroneous notion as far as comic books go. Yeah,
but that's why I'm saying. So I'm all on board for a Cliff Chiang book.
Yeah,
because I mean, you can draw all kinds of great scenes, but not have an understanding of how to, put that all together into what seems to be a smart story. And I'm just saying, because of other jobs he's had, working with other great creators and being an editor prior to being an artist, to me, it strikes me as you would have a skill set to be successful at doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Well, and it's funny you even mentioned that too. The idea of storytelling skills rubbing off on artists. Because I read the interview with Jamie McKelvey in regards to his and Matt Wilson's new book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I've already forgotten the name of it. Kill something.
Kill Space, right? Is it Kill Space?
I don't know.
It's a space book. I know that,
yes.
Right?
Well, and I'm totally getting that. By the way, I was going to ask you about that off
100%, 100%, man. Those creators, I'm on it.
But he, in an interview with somebody that I read recently, he talked about that working with Kieran Gillen and others, and I didn't know this, but McKelvey mentioned how he used to write before he got into the drawing part of comics. He used to write comics, he's kind of gotten away from it. He's just been working with other writers, but now he's going to do kind of not quite what Cliff Chiang is going to do, but he's taken on more responsibility for his new book coming out. So I definitely will. This is definitely going on the short list, even though I don't know anything about it because it is Cliff Chiang. Yeah. And I'm really curious given that he's going to be doing everything other than actually publish or printing the comic.
Right.
What does that mean? What does a Cliff Chiang everything comic mean? That's going to be really cool, or potentially really cool to see. Mm-hmm. So, okay, we're entering the home stretch. We're almost done, Travis. How much of Spawn have you read over the years?
I have read one issue.
No kidding. Really?
Well, I have read one issue of the 301 issues that are out.
Well, I've got you beat by maybe 2 or 3 issues. But yeah, Travis, he said it. 301 so far issues of Spawn, and because of that, and this is why I put this on here. What do you think about this? Spawn is now considered the longest-running creator-owned superhero comic of all time, according to the world record, the Guinness World Record thing. Mm. Where's the fanfare, Travis? Where's the love here? Come on.
Okay, cool.
Not a big deal to you?
No.
Guinness World Record.
Here's don't get me wrong. It's cool when nowadays the indie comic makes it this far is no, that's cool. And if Spawn is your jam, awesome. I have questions. Do you have any idea as Todd McFarlane actually had his hand in the book the entire time?
I don't actually.
Okay.
My impression is no.
I don't think so. I know his name's always attached to it, clearly. But I don't think so. Clearly he hasn't drawn it the entire time. There's been tons of people drawing it and whatnot. And I think other people have written it. So, I don't know. So I would be more impressed. Like, what is Savage Dragon?
I was just going to bring that up.
Now Savage Dragon, which has got to be 200, it's got to be close.
He's actually nearing 300.
See, that I'm probably more impressed with because he has been every single issue. Not that I'm interested in reading it. I'm not. But the idea of that is that's awesome.
So the he we're referring to, in case people don't know, is Eric Larson, right? The writer and creator. Writer? Is
artist.
He
artist?
Does he do the writing and the art?
He does it all. Has he done it all the whole time? Not 100% sure.
But I bet he's written everything if he's not drawn everything.
Yeah.
So that I agree. That's where I was going to lead into this is that, if once that, well, no, it's always going to be chasing this record, I guess.
Right.
Just in terms of the longest running one. But yeah, I agree. I think Eric Larson should get into the Guinness Book of World, whatever it is, the Guinness World Record thing.
Right.
But
no, it's impressive. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being dismissive. That's impressive. It's a comic of an era of comics that I don't care for at all. So
right. It beat Hellblazer in terms of number of issues, Travis. So there you go.
Now, finally,
I know.
Hellblazer got canceled how many years ago now? They're just getting there.
Yeah. Have you ever figured out if Hellblazer had kept going, what issue number would it be right now?
I don't know.
It's got to be in the near 400, right?
Yes. I don't like to look back on things like that.
You don't like to look back at the past? Oh, come on.
Nothing's more sad than an old guy weeping over his comics. So.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, speaking of old guys, I don't know. So I think you and I talked about this before. Stuart Immonen had announced his retirement from comics. Mm-hmm. Although he and his wife, I think, were also doing a comic on or through Instagram. They were posting some art every day or something for a while.
Oh.
Something that I was supposed to check out, and I think I did once, and I never kept up with it. So now I'm feeling kind of bad. But anyway, Immonen is coming out of retirement, I guess, to do. We talked about the Hill House comics. He's going to do be the artist on the book Plunge.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, like you were saying before, the Joe Hill books, you wanted to get them, because you like horror comics, but you were really interested in the creators involved in this. And Immonen is one of those creators that he's an artist that I'm particularly when I see his name attached to something, I want to check it out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So, I just, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what is what it's going to look like, what it's going to be, and whatnot. Technically, supposedly, his publication after Amazing Spider-Man 800 is when he went into retirement.
Yes,
and then him and his wife Catherine have been publishing Grass of Parnassus on Instagram since 2018. So, yeah. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. Seeing what it's going to be. But like I said, I'm looking forward to all the Joe Hill, the Hill House comics, just to see what vibe they really have and whatnot. So,
what do you think about this next thing? Because I think you and I have talked about this, if not in person or maybe over Twitter. I can't remember now, but G. Willow Wilson is taking over the Dreaming. Now, I forget, are you getting the Dreaming?
Yes. I love that comic.
Yeah. I've been really enjoying that. Isn't Cy Spurrier writing that currently?
Yes.
Yes. But Cy Spurrier is going over to Hellblazer,
which starts like in a month or something.
Something like, right? But now G. Willow Wilson's going to take over the Dreaming. Now, we have talked about this, about how we weren't all that enamored with G. Willow Wilson on taking over Wonder Woman. Right? Or did I dream that conversation?
No, I mean, I was excited that she was going to be doing it, and once she was on it, it was like, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about this change?
Okay, so here's the thing. Cy Spurrier and Blisk Everly art is beyond amazing in the current of the book. So I'm super sad to see that go, because I absolutely love her work. She's somebody that I don't care what she's on. I don't care if it's a Barbie comic. I'm going to be buying it. I'm serious. I will be buying it because she's amazing. So talking about, well, I guess she's not European, she's South American, but at any rate, so I'm sad to see that go, because I have really been enjoying the book. It feels so naturally part of the Sandman universe. Mm-hmm. It just feels like nothing's missing for me. I mean, they've done an excellent job of it. Now, the new creators are coming out of the book. What you didn't mention was Nick Robles will be doing the art. Mm-hmm. Nobody does perfect Screams Vertigo Comics art better than that man does.
Really?
If you've read Euthanauts is a book that came out under the Black Crown imprint from IDW. That book just screams Vertigo look. It is so gorgeous. So I am super stoked for this book. Still, from an artistic standpoint, I know the book is just going to be gorgeous eye candy all the way through it. I think part of what hurt G. Willow Wilson's run on Wonder Woman was they didn't have good art. I hated the art all the way through that. So I'm still excited. I'm a little bit nervous, but Sandman is where G. Willow Wilson cut her teeth. Sandman is what brought G. Willow Wilson into comic books in the first place. So that's cool and scary at the same time. I hope she's thinking it's cool and scary at the same time, because I can't imagine getting to take on the thing that got me into whatever property. That would be I would
talk about intimidating.
Right. So I'm excited. I'm excited because the art aspect of it, I think, is going to be, and because I've loved the Dreaming a lot because of the art, I'm still excited for it. It featuring the return to William Shakespeare. That's curious. I'm curious to see how. I don't know what G. Willow Wilson's personal thing is with William Shakespeare. Are there other writers that I think potentially could have tackled that possibly better. I'm curious, is that her choice that's what it is, or somebody else made the decision that, hey, let's do the William Shakespeare part? I don't know. But I'm still excited for it. I really like the book. Like I said, a part of me will mourn the people who are on it now going. And I'm excited that this could be great also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely be giving this a chance. And because based on what you just said, because I am not familiar with Nick Robles' art, because I have not read Euthanauts nor what was the other one, Dr. Mirage. They list here.
Yeah, which is gorgeous looking also.
I've heard it's good. I think mostly from you, but still, So I'm looking forward to that. And the William Shakespeare thing was that I was excited to hear that too, because excited and what's the word I'm looking for? I'm anxious about it, I guess, because William Shakespeare in the Sandman book worked because he was used so little.
Right.
It had a huge impact because it wasn't something that was a long-term story.
Right.
It was, he had that there was that one issue of Sandman where you find out what the inspiration was for I was going to say Much Ado About Nothing, but that's not it. Midsummer Night's Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And then he appeared maybe once or twice more. I might be wrong about that, but all I remember, it wasn't very much. And so, that makes quite an impression on you. So I'm anxious about it, but
sure. What are they going to do with it? Because largely the Dreaming book so far has been moving forward. It's got some elements of obviously of the original stuff, but it's not. It's not. It doesn't feel to me like it's retreading stuff. I mean, some of the same issues are still involved,
right?
With Dreaming,
but it's advancing it,
right? So I'm hoping that's what the William Shakespeare thing will be too, and we're not going to muddy what we have. And so I'm with you. I'm trepidatious about that aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just so people know, I guess the plan is that they take over with issue 19, so that'll be March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're talking about it, I've been really curious. I've been meaning to ask you this, Travis. What do you think about the new Hellblazer book coming out? That's
super excited.
Yeah.
Super excited because Cy Spurrier is deeply invested in, to me, the impression is between him and Campbell, pretty sure it's Campbell and Art, are deeply invested in it being like it was, being Hellblazer, not a John Constantine book. I follow Cy Spurrier on Twitter. People occasionally ask him questions about the Hellblazer stuff, and he's been answering it. He's been talking about, to the point like this is where he thinks Constantine's accent would come from.
Oh, wow. He's really given this some thought, huh?
Yeah. As to, why does he use the diction that he uses and whatnot? What are John's favorite things? It's just, he seems to have a better, we'll see when the book comes out. The art's going to look awesome. The art's going to look cool in it, but we'll see when the book actually comes out. But this is the closest thing to feeling like capturing what the character was from the original book. So I'm excited for it.
Okay, so now that you've said that, obviously you've implied that none of the other iterations of Constantine or Hellblazer that they published since they canceled the original run at issue 300 don't measure up to the original. But out of those, I assume you've read some of all of those different takes since the New 52, right? Which one came the closest for you? Which one did you enjoy well, I know that's even a different question.
So which one I enjoy the most? I enjoyed the Hellblazer when Tying the Fourth and Ming Doyle were writing it / drawing it the most. I enjoyed that the most. I can't remember if that's a rebirth or if that's a New 52 or if that's a somewhere in between. I don't know where that one landed in that. That's the one I enjoyed the most. Riley Rosmo art in a lot of it, and Ming Doyle. That's some good stuff. I own pages of original art from that.
Whoa. Ming Doyle or Riley Rosmo?
Riley Rosmo. I haven't gotten to Ming Doyle.
Son of a...
Yeah. Double page spread. Anyway, so yeah. I like that one the best. None of them measure up. None of them are, the first one to come after the canceling was not good.
Yeah.
It was so tone deaf to. I can go on a long time about my vision of what Constantine is and whatnot. And it was very tone deaf and just missed all the points. I don't care for the interpretation of Constantine that's going on right now in Justice League Dark. He's a patsy, and if you're up to date on the comic, he got duped by Zantara and a bunch of other stuff. He's just kind of a middleman. Yuck. I don't like him. I don't like him being ex-boyfriend or current boyfriend or any other version of friend with Zatanna. The second they plop him into the DC universe proper, yuck.
And
they turn him into a superhero. He's spell slinging. No, bullshit.
That's where he started. A bit player in the Swamp Thing saga.
Exactly. One issue of Swamp Thing popping out of cigarettes, and yeah, cool.
All I'm saying is that he developed over time into the thing that you love.
Issue number 1 of Hellblazer, he was 100% better than he is in anything that came outside of that original book.
Would you say he was like a totally different character?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked. That's the point. It worked.
Oh yeah.
So do you really think that the Cy Spurrier Hellblazer coming out won't be connected directly to the DCU?
I hope not. I don't know that.
I think he's got to be.
Why?
Because that's what they keep doing with him.
Oh,
why would they stop that?
But we're moving ahead to the next subject, and I can tell you how it falls into that and not.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go there then. So, this was actually earlier. So basically, everything that we've talked about has been more or less as announcements came out throughout the New York Comicon. This actually came out earlier in the timeline, but because of the subject matter, I threw it at the end because I love to throw these potential great discussion items with Travis at the end of the show. And so what this is that DC announced, at first it was just very little information, but then since then Travis pointed me to another article that came out after New York Comic Con to provide a little more information. But DC is fleshing out a timeline for their shared universe. And they defined what they first called 4 generations of heroes. And since then, they've at least Comics Beat folks are calling it. I don't know if it's official or this is what the writer of the article called it, but the 5G. So there's 5 generations. There's 4 previous generations of heroes in this timeline, and then the 5th G is the current. They're
not really going to call it that because of the whole, actual 5G technology stuff. So
yeah.
But that's how it's being referred to by everybody at this point.
Yeah. So okay, go ahead.
So, the first thing I want to do is I think it's hilarious that every time I open up this document that we're both looking at, you've changed what you said at the bottom of it as far as like it being why, and then why is DC so reboot crazy? I think that's funny just to see your written response every time you tweak this. You change something else on it. So
yeah, in my notes for this, my very first thing was why. So yeah, well, what was your first reaction to this idea? Okay, well, I guess let me flesh out what they're thinking of, and then we'll get into our reaction. So, this is a quote: "The first generation will start when Wonder Woman arrives in the U.S., I assume perhaps in the World War II era, or maybe even the First World War, to tie into the cinematic universe.
Right.
And is revealed as the first superhero. We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
The second will be Superman's emergence. The third will be the period from Crisis on Infinite Earths to Flashpoint. And then the fourth will be the modern stories we're all reading. So I don't understand where the fifth part then comes in.
So the fifth part is to some degree is people's hypothesizing about what's been said. The fifth generation is going to be the next generation. Yes. So it's going to be who's the new Superman, who's the new Batman, who's the new Green Lantern, who's the new
right.
So the passing of the torch thing.
Yeah. So what did they
to get younger modern people? So I'm assuming the guess is that that's going to pull in a different group of people that aren't interested in old man Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, whatever.
Yeah. Oh. Exactly. So, according to your favorite news website, Bleeding Cool, Travis. So this information is coming out from reporting that, I'll put that in quotes, reporting from Bleeding Cool, but also the Comics Beat website they've been hearing this stuff too. So right now it's all just speculation, rumor.
Well, This all comes from Dan talking about this stuff, and there being this crazy, literally a written timeline, like you see in history books, behind him, and they've all kind of blown that up, and people have started looking at it and digging into it and looking at what future books potentially are coming out and piecing this together. So,
but I mean, the announcement that
the timeline is real.
The timeline that DC is talking about is something that they're doing something with. So yeah, like you said, the fifth generation is what supposedly is what comes next. And it says here in the article, characters like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman, and maybe others will cede their mantles to replacements. Some of which will be surprising. Batman, for example, will be replaced by Luke Fox rather than a Robin or a Batgirl or whatever. And we've heard this, that Luke Fox is going to be Batman at some point, or a Batman or something along those lines. So if that's the case, and I agree with you, that I think maybe that's a way to draw in
another new audience. Yeah.
But I thought that experiment failed, and that's why we had to do the New 52, and because we already had that. A lot of those folks had been replaced by a younger, different hero character,
but not in a uniform sort of way. So, right, this will be in a more uniform sort of way.
Okay,
and they can tell stories within any of these time frames, and supposedly make it all make sense. So, if they want to go back and tell an old Superman or Batman, whatever story, they can drop it into one of these generations and tell that story and literally say at the beginning of it, hey, this is this generation of whatever. For me, as a non-continuity snob, or not even close, the whole timeline thing doesn't matter to me. I didn't need this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to read one Batman book and have it match up to another Batman book, or struggle to try and put the two together, or try to understand how it is that, we have as many Robins as we do, and how do they all fit in, and how can they all be the ages they are? I don't care. I mean, I suspend my suspension of disbelief about so much about superhero comics that part doesn't matter to me. The only time it matters to me is when they do these shenanigans and try and tell me it all has to fit within a certain thing.
Yeah.
Then it falls apart. That was one of the jokes about the New 52, when they flushed the toilet, except for Green Lantern and Batman, and then tried to squeeze all that damn continuity all into there without getting rid of it. It didn't make sense. I didn't care until you told me this is how it makes sense. And then I take the time to go, no, it doesn't.
So when they try to explain it, then it falls apart.
Right. Right. So I don't care. I know some people, it's all important. It all has to make sense, and all the puzzle pieces have to click together and all be whatever. I guess I come from an era of reading comics when I didn't 100% start out with. I didn't know there was a continuity, to a large degree. I bought my comics off a spinner rack. If I got 3 or 4 in a row, hallelujah. And I read comics that had, Earth 2 heroes and Earth 1 heroes, and okay, this one's got, this Robin's got pants, so clearly that's a different Robin than Robin that doesn't. So it's a different story. Cool. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. It didn't. And somewhere along the way, it has to be my generation. My generation of people went, no, it all has to be hooked together. And so now, not just DC, Marvel's doing it too. There's this high step to try and make it all connect together and make some sort of sense. Cool when it does, but I'm of the so what category as far as is this actually a reboot? I don't think it's a reboot. I just think they're trying to this is a new way of trying to explain how it all works together, so they can tell these new stories they want to tell and still tell the stories they're going to tell now. Because I'm assuming whenever this 5G kicks off, they're not stopping the regular Batman book, are they? So is Tynion just the fill-in until whoever's writing the
whatever this is that gets launched.
If it's gonna be Luke Fox being Batwing's gonna be Batman, if that's what it's gonna be, is that I know they've implied, hey, look, they're already starting to work on it in Aquaman, because now they've reintroduced Aqualad, the newer version of Aqualad in it that matches up closer to the Young Justice cartoon. They've introduced him again into the book. So they're saying, ooh, look, we're already starting to plant the seeds of the next generation. I don't know. I'm not freaking out about it. I mean, I survived New 52, so I'm gold. I'm gold to whatever's going on.
How many crises have we lived through and reboots? Right. Yeah. I agree with you that. So yeah, like I said, my initial reaction to this was why?
Right.
Why do we need this? Why does
because
this?
I think they want. I think that it's a proven fact that when they start something over, they get lots of eyes on it because it's starting over. It's something new, and that's right. They're chasing corporate comics. They're chasing the bottom line. This gives them another opportunity to go, oh, look, here's this whole, this whole thing. Yes, is it fatiguing? It 100% is. But it's fatiguing to those of us who are trying to read all the stuff. I don't think it's fatiguing to somebody new coming in and seeing a fresh-faced, Superman or a fresh-faced Green Lantern or whatever. So I see both sides to it. It's just a matter of it. Does it alienate enough of us who are currently solidly buying comics as the new comics come in? I don't think it does if they're going with, we still have these comics that you old geezers are reading. They're still there. We're still producing them. Not just go back and read the old ones, but we're still producing them. And we've got this other set of comics that if you want to read the fresh face, whatever, you can. We're happy to sell it to you, but it's also we recognize there's this other audience. We're trying to get that other audience in with the original graphic novels, but we also need the direct market, the monthly sales machine to keep working. They believe, because that's still their business model. Here's a way to do that. That's just all my guess on why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I get that. I totally understand that. It's actually something that I kind of posited several months ago. Not anything relating to this specifically, but just kind of like the idea of produce books for us old geezers, and produce books for younger readers, and they're all the same characters, but they're just different interpretations of them to appeal to that particular audience. Why not do that? Why not have 3 or 4 Batman books? I shouldn't say Batman, but but are different interpretations of that character. One that appeals to a younger audience, one that appeals to, blah, 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 right? Publish anything and everything that works and not worry about continuity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet,
but there But there are tons of people, Eric.
I know.
That continuity is huge, huge.
And it's important to me to a degree, but I just want a good story. I don't care that that we have 5 Robins in this timeline. It's like I suspend that disbelief. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then I read I read the story about the character.
Mm-hmm.
But to I don't know. Why define it in this way, other than to appeal? It can't just be to appeal to us, to these long-term readers.
So it's the people above them, right? It's AT&T, right?
Is it?
It's a freaking spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet, right? I don't know. I mean, to me, it feels like to some degree they've got the corporate overlords are going, okay, what are we doing? They come up with this idea to sell to their bosses. Now they have to turn around and sell it to us, right? They have to change. We've all established that, right? It has to change. It can't stay what it is now.
Right.
It can't stay what it is now. I mean, we all agreed that if superhero comics, clearly comics are selling really well. You just have to look at Scholastic sales of books that have nothing to do with superheroes. If they want the superhero comics not just to be superhero movies, if we want to continue to have superhero comics, they have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
We can't maintain, and I say we, us at our age,
our generation,
we can't maintain superhero comics. They're too expensive at this point for us to maintain them solely alone. There has to be somebody else in the any business you want to grow. Generally,
yeah.
Unless you are at a point where you're a small mom and pop and you can't expand because you know that's not what we're talking about here. So they need to grow. They got to find a way to grow, and this is them just trying to find another way to grow instead of just doing the same thing.
I just hope that they don't. I'm so sick of reboots. Right. So
right.
Do this.
Yes,
this thing.
I will lose my shit if they spend a year. Excuse me. If they spend a year on another Wonder Woman, now she's the first hero, so we have to tell this story of her being the first hero. Don't get me wrong. I think that is freaking awesome that now Wonder Woman is the first hero. I'm totally down for that, as opposed to being
to
Superman.
Yeah, to that point. Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for Superman being the first superhero. I don't think he should lose that, but I much prefer if he has to cede that to somebody else. I much prefer it now that it's Wonder Woman, as opposed to where I thought at some point they were going to do this, make it Batman.
Oh yeah, he was secretly the whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Because
they kind of almost hinted at that with the New 52, right?
Yes,
that he'd been, vigilante.
Exactly, but it was never.
Yeah, because they hadn't
canonized.
They hadn't coined superhero yet. Whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you get tied back to the movies, Batman versus Superman, right? Was that the first one where they were together? Yeah, where he's clearly an older person. And having been, so I thought for sure that eventually DC Comics would retroactively say, no, Batman was the inspiration for all the superheroes. Yeah. And so I'm so pleased that they're not doing that, because he is the most popular character in their lineup.
Yeah.
So I'm so pleased that instead of that they went with Wonder Woman. So that's neat.
But at the same time, slapping this timeline down and saying this is when stuff happened, and having these generations and whatnot, still screws everything up, because there's no way that can't not make our traditional viewed heroes being old people, being our age. Do you know what I mean? This doesn't. As soon as you start tacking it down hard, which is what this feels like to some degree, it has.
Exactly. Yes.
It starts as much as they're trying to solidify the continuity, it starts breaking it in some sense too, because now you don't have that room to kind of go, oh, this all could have happened. It
has to be very flexible. Right. I mean, look at Marvel with Captain America, right? He is important because he served in World War II.
Right.
How many years has it been since World War II? And he's, and so that's where the whole Marvel Universe timeline kind of is weird, because how long have those characters been around now? Right. So same with DC. It's like, Yeah, I remember reading Superman stories where he was palling around with Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy.
Right.
And clearly they put dates in it. The Legion of Superheroes, they would constantly put in, 29 whatever to pinpoint where they were. And it's like, well, what?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like what we've already said is the timeline's got to be flexible, and yet they seem to want to pinpoint this stuff all the time.
But it also makes sense to kind of do this generational thing, because then you can tell a story from a whatever,
sure,
and then clearly state, fourth generation book, this is what's going on, or third generation book,
and that's fine. I have no problem with that concept.
It's a much quicker way from to identify it than going, this story is told before whatever other sea of stuff is out there going on right now.
Yeah.
And a way for them to draw a line and go, all this stuff here is going to be this new thing that we're hoping to bring in the new reader with, the new younger reader with.
Mm-hmm.
Without totally throwing away all the stuff that we loved that was the mistake of the New 52, where they threw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they've now had to basically literally backpedal the whole thing on, which they have.
Yeah.
So
do you think then that this is an admission that those original young adult original graphic novels are not working for them, or not working in the right way, or
no? I don't think that's it at all.
It's just a different approach.
I think that is working very well, and I think we're going to see more and more and more of that. I just think this is a way that works. That's a different market. That's not the same market. They're still trying to save the monthly market. They're still trying to save that. They're still trying to save, is what I think it is. So they're trying to get people hooked on the monthly book, as opposed to the once a quarter book.
Yes.
Or once every 6 months book.
Yeah.
Is what I think it is. Because they haven't created a business model that allows them to survive on that original graphic novel.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's such a fledgling approach anyway that I don't know that we really have any results from it.
It's only a fledgling when it comes to superheroes.
Well, I mean, with DC in particular, I know, but yeah, exactly.
Because we also know those style of books that don't have to do with superheroes are selling like gangbusters.
Right.
What, Teglemeier has got how many millions of issues has she sold? I mean, if you look at the entire what would fall under comics as we're trying to talk about them market, more than 30% of the market share is dominated by non-superhero comics. All that stuff that we're looking at the Harveys and going, I haven't read any of that. That's the market. That's what's selling now. Now the superhero comics are just trying to figure out how to get their foot in the door of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just because you brought up Raina Telgemeier, this is 2015, but has sold over 3.5 million of her books.
Yeah, it's way more than that now.
Oh yeah. So anyway, the other point about this whole thing, besides we obviously we don't know the details yet, but it's fun to speculate. But what really bothers me is you brought the New 52 and whatnot. And DiDio did say, there was great excitement. This is quote, great excitement that came along with the New 52. I am just so worried that whatever this thing is just going to be another New 52, another version of New 52. And so to me, is that going to be the equivalent now of relaunching a new book at number one every so often? We're just going to relaunch the universe every so often?
Yeah, I don't know.
As opposed to just publishing books,
right? Well, I'm okay with that. I've moved past the number one thing. I've moved past that. It's the reality of, and we as people who buy comics are responsible for that.
Yep.
That is on us. The
The
the consumer. So I'm past that. But I wish they would find a different way to do it. Let's just give me seasons and know every 12 issues it starts over or whatever. Cool. Then we can logically attempt to collect what it is we want to collect in an order that makes sense. Or if we're going back to buy them later in trades, we can pick them up in an order that makes sense. Whatever. So the New 52, I think there's some awesome stuff that came out of the New 52, and there's things I absolutely loved. Then there are things about the New 52 I absolutely hated.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the mandated, we're not having relationships. Everybody has to be dark and depressed. There has to be an action page every 3 pages. All of those kinds of stuff that came out of the New 52 is what wrecked DC Comics at the time for me. I know me and you both had conversations about the whole formatted, it's got to be action stuff and whatnot and nothing else kind of a thing that was really wrong. But the New 52, they took tons of chances. They had a Frankenstein book. Yep. They had a Resurrection Man book. They had a Sword and Sorcery book. They had a Western book. They put all this stuff out there. So kudos to them for let's put out some different stuff, in my opinion. That was awesome because I bought all those books because it was cool to see something else on the shelf besides just freaking Justice League, Superman, Green Lantern, Batman, whatever. So learn about the good stuff and learn about the bad stuff and only take the good stuff going forward.
Yeah.
I guess. Don't make all these comics have to be the same thing. That's going to be a problem. If they are launching the 5th generation and they're all going to be this thing and it's all going to come out together as a number one, it better not be editorially handled exactly the same for every comic across the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Then it instantaneously becomes tone deaf and uninteresting. I only need you to read one of those comics because I'm going to get the same story in every single one of them.
Yeah,
they're just using different names and a different costume.
Yep.
Don't do that.
So let me ask you this then, just digging into some of the details a little bit. What about the idea of these the heroes getting their replacements? Just as purely as a comic book superhero fan, and DC in particular, I know for you and I, what do you think about that? Just generally speaking, do you like that idea? Do you think why are they doing this? What's your initial reaction to that particular detail?
It won't last.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of too.
I mean, that's the first. I mean, let's be honest. Bruce Wayne is he's Batman. Okay. Oh no, I take that back. I take that back. Bruce Wayne has to be in a Batman comic, in some sense.
Yes, sure.
So,
but not
because I think Batman Beyond works. I mean, if we were to if the comic if they were to never tell another current Batman story, Batman Beyond works. I mean, it works anyway, but it works because he's still there. Like especially like in the cartoon, because that's where it all started from, right? Was the cartoon. It worked because Bruce Wayne was still there. He's this old geezer sitting in his thing who can't do the job anymore, and he has influence on. So it works. So my problem with a new starting line 5G, let's put all these new people and not the people you suspect. I want it to be organic, largely in nature. And so far, now I'm not reading everything. In Aquaman, it started potentially. Here's this new Aquaman. He's now hanging out with the current Aquaman, this Aqualad. Let's kind of show him the stuff and kind of, this is the world of superheroes. To me, it seems insanely random to just suddenly tomorrow, let's put out a Batman comic and it's somebody else completely in a different Batman costume, approaching the Batman universe in a completely different way without there being a bridge. What inspired that? What inspires them to, and they're all doing.
I see. You mean in universe? There's got to be a build up, and
for me, that's going to make it a much more enjoyable story than just like I said. Suddenly one day, here's
New
this
52-esque relaunching everything. Yeah.
Now I say that it did work with Blue Beetle, but Blue Beetle's a much smaller character with a lot less baggage, and even that they ultimately bring back the old Blue Beetle. In a supervisory, I can't do the job anymore, but I'm here to kind of be the old man sounding board, that kind of a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but okay, so I guess relating to that, I mean, didn't they kind of try this in a sense? I mean, not like replacing existing characters, but I don't know, just the idea of, I was thinking specifically of Rebirth and when they brought back the Titans, the original, quote unquote original Titans.
Right.
To appeal to people like me who love the new Teen Titans. And so or the original Teen Titans.
Right.
And it was not good.
Well, but that's not because they brought them back, right?
I think to me, but it was part of in the way that they did it.
Okay. So it wasn't, they couldn't recapture what was before or they just didn't tell you a good story.
It was probably more the latter, but the former, there's a to me, just personally to me, there's a little bit of that there.
I didn't enjoy the comic. I didn't enjoy the comic. You have to give me a reason to have those people back together again, because one of the things about the Teen Titans is those characters did grow up and move on,
mm-hmm.
right? We read them growing up and moving on. Mm-hmm. So to put them back together again.
Well, that to your point, I mean, what they tried to do with Rebirth, specifically with the Titans, is that they had this New 52 layer that they were trying to place this Rebirth layer on top of and try to make it work, and I don't think it did very well.
Right. So
are they going to do that with this?
Right. I don't know. Right. Depending on what kind of veneer they try to throw over the top of the new thing, I guess depends on whether or not it's going to work for us. And does it have to work for us? Because we can read 4th generation comics or 3rd generation comics.
Assuming that they're going to actually do that. I don't think they are.
You think we're getting rid of all that? And literally, you have the gut feeling they're literally rebooting the entire universe again.
Or it's something very close to that. Yeah. We're not going to get a 3rd generation Batman book, a 4th generation Batman book, and a 5th generation Batman book. That will be very
unsuccessful. That will be very unsuccessful if they literally basically throw everything out again, because that's what you're saying, throw everything out again and have, new heroes in those costumes with no passing of the torch. And don't get me wrong. In the 80s, one of my favorite comic books was Infinity Inc. And literally that's what that book was.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That was modern heroes of Earth 2 going, okay, old guys, JSA, literally every character has gray hair somewhere on them, going, yeah, you guys are going out and we're going to be our new thing. And the old people going, no, we don't like you, you new people. You need to learn the ropes first. And then them making their own group. Screw you. We're going to do our own. We're going to have our own jam. Is that comic book good now? I don't know. I liked it back then. When it was coming out, I thought that was cool. Yep. I like these young people going, we don't need you. You're not giving us the room to breathe and be who we want to be. Screw you. We're going to go off and do this thing. If that's what it is, cool. Because then that means we still have us old guys get to read our superhero books. And then there's this new generation of whatever. I mean, it's kind of what the Titans have always kind of been to some degree. Mm-hmm. That and or we just need to get away from the old people and do our own thing. They're just going to do that with the whole universe. Cool. If they do it the right way.
Well, yeah, that's the crux, the right way. What is that?
Right. I'm on board. If not, I hope they keep my old man comic that I can keep reading. Or this just further shrinks how many superhero comics I read.
Well, yeah. So
my superhero comic reading is getting smaller and smaller all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I love superheroes as a genre.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I grew up on it. I dig it. I still dig it. I dig the idea of what it is. I dig playing with it. So I dig Watchmen and it kind of questioning all that stuff. And I love the full Shazam, Captain Marvel, cheesy, do the right thing. I love all aspects of that. Everything in between. I love that all. I love superheroes. So I will always be reading some superhero comics. But will my 15 to 20 comic books a week reading pile continue to be 50% superheroes? Probably not.
Yeah. One thing that you, as you were talking there a minute ago, I was thinking, in terms of these replacement characters, I suddenly I got this horrendous vision of the people out there in comics Twitter land bemoaning the fact that, well, why did you have to replace Batman with this character? That's not how it's, all that's crap. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of that kind of criticism out there.
Yep.
Yeah, but like you, my whole thing is make it a good story. I would prefer it be organic, as opposed to an editorially dictated publishing initiative, and the eventually thing. I mean, all of this stuff is so cyclical. I mean, we're talking about a timeline, right? Well, we had a timeline after the Crisis. Yep. We got a timeline, and I remember in the 90s they had a timeline that was a shifting timeline, so to speak, because they weren't very specific about things, and it was this span of 10 years or so, right, where we were reading about right now was, and about 10 years earlier was when superheroes kind of debuted, and then when New 52 happened, it was like suddenly that timeline got a lot shorter. It was only 5 years. Because they wanted to focus on these characters being younger to appeal to a younger audience, potentially. Well, what happened with that? So in 5 to 10 years, Travis, are we going to be having the same goddamn conversation? Probably.
No. We won't. I don't think we will, because we'll be done.
You think?
I think. I don't know. Like I said, my superhero reading is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And if they continue to do stuff that does not make sense, easier to walk away, right?
I don't know. I mean, I remember us having conversations about when they were raising the prices of comics. At what point are we going to stop because it's just too much to pay for a 20-page comic, and yet here we are now consistently paying $3.99 for a 20-page comic.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I question our.
Our sanity.
Our sanity. Yeah. There you go. We must be crazy to be paying these prices for buying all these comics for so many years. And at what point are we just going to become that old man saying, "Get off my lawn," with this whole situation? Well, that was fun. Fun conversation. Is there anything else you want to say about this stuff, Travis?
No.
All right.
Now, be curious to see when it happens, what it really is. I'm sure we'll come back and have a conversation.
What's going to be really interesting is that as we get more details on this, or details, as the case may be, I don't know why I said that way, but how far off are we on these speculations, right? That's always kind of fun. But so anyway, was there any other news that you wanted to spotlight?
Nope.
Okay, so that was the news as we saw it out of the New York Comicon. Boy, I'd be really interested to hear what people have to say about a lot of this stuff, especially this last thing that we talked about.
Right.
So let us know. You can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. Travis, how would people get a hold of you or check out your work on the interwebs?
So on YouTube, which new content's a little spry right now because life's been busy, but on YouTube you can follow me, Oddfellows Thoughts. Make sure you type in all Oddfellows Thoughts, or I am on Twitter, _Gaunt_man. I know, as we say every time I'm on, I should change that at some point.
Never change.
Those are the two ways you can get a hold of me. Easiest ways.
All right. Well, Travis, thank you again for joining me. I know this was a bit of an imposition on your weekend, so I really appreciate that.
I always enjoy talking books.
I was going to say, I love talking comic stuff with you. So, all right. Everybody else, thanks for listening. Make sure you send us your thoughts either on Twitter or email or whatever. Would appreciate that. And don't forget to check out Travis's YouTube channel. He's even though he's not put out a lot of stuff recently, he has a lot of content out there for you to peruse as anyway. So, and with that, I will leave everybody. We'll talk again soon, Travis. Thanks for listening, everyone.